What's up guys, and welcome to another E39 M5 review. My second ever time getting the E39 M5 on camera. Kevin from the Jabal and Cars YouTube channel and myself, we just got done with 8 hours of filming of all 6 generations of BMW M3 and 4 generations of the BMW M5. Now this particular E39 is not the same one I had in that comparison video. This one actually belongs to Mart, who helped put this whole event together for us here in Pittsboro, North Carolina. And so we're gonna do a standalone review of this OEM Plus build. Mark has put the ground control coilovers on this thing. We have an aftermarket exhaust, but the intent with these mods is to make it feel just slightly better than OEM. Let's see if Mark has accomplished that. And before we get started here, quick shout out, a happy birthday to Mark's wife, Katie. Mark has been kind enough to be away from home all day just to help us organize and coordinate this event. So we definitely appreciate it, both Mark and Katie. With that said, let's fire this thing up. We're powered by a 5-liter naturally aspirated V8 making 395 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque, limited slip differential out back, 6-speed manual was the only choice of transmission. Absolutely love the interior of the E39. I've said it once before, I'll say it again. This is my favorite looking interior of all the M5 generations. It's timeless and still looks clean today, even though this one has almost 196,000 miles. Beautiful Vantage right beside us, which we'll be reviewing right after this E39. Right away, what a refined machine for a 23-year-old vehicle that was designed over 25 years ago, weighing in at around 4,000 pounds. You feel the solidity of the structure, and even the interior build quality is excellent. Love this color combo. This wood is just really unique, and the color makes this interior pop. And because this 5-liter V8 has plenty of low-end torque, it's very well suited to a car of this size and weight. That being said, this is a much smaller 5 Series generation compared to the F10 or the current F90. And in my opinion, this is the perfect size. In 5th gear here, engine spinning at 2,000 RPM, 60 miles an hour, and it's a very serene driving experience. It really does feel like a full-size luxury car, because that's what it is. And these ground control coilovers, I can't even tell this doesn't have OEM suspension at the moment. But what happens when the road gets a little bit more twisty? Oh yes. Then the car just comes alive. Glorious V8 sounds. We've got a hydraulically assisted steering box, or recirculating ball, which these cars have been criticized for, because compared to the 6-cylinder models of the E39, which have hydraulic rack and pinion, this recirculating ball setup is a little bit unusual. People say it's very much truck-like in the way it feels, but still steers better by far compared to the F10 M5. And actually I think it has really nice load up in the corners, especially if you press the sport button down here, which will activate the servotronic system, which actually makes the steering feel a bit heavier at speed. And it does that by diverting some of the steering fluid out of the loop, so there's less hydraulic pressure, leading to less assistance. The sport button also heightens the drive-by-wire setup's throttle response, and it really makes this car just a joy to drive. Yep, this thing still hauls ass almost 25 years later, and it sounds glorious doing it. This 5-liter V8 is such a gem of an engine. It's not particularly high revving, it doesn't make crazy numbers, but it's so well matched to this chassis. The 6-speed manual, very easy to use. It's a BMW shifter, that's all I have to say about it. Having come from an E39 540i M Sport that I used to own, this was always the halo car, and what I hoped that 540i M Sport would feel like, or at least get 90% there, but it just never was that for me. And ultimately, that's why I sold it. I wasn't willing to invest the time and money to fix some of the things that car needed, because I knew that even if I did fix them, and even if I dropped a few $1,000s into upgrading the performance of that car, it still wouldn't feel as good as an E39 M5. It was a futile effort. Having driven 2 E39 M5s today, I can say that I made the right call. I'd be really curious to see how a 6-cylinder E39 feels. Right now, all I'm thinking about is this M5. Oh yes. The gearing is a little bit long, but it's actually well suited to this engine. Lots of mid-range torque. It's not a torque monster down low. It's more of a mid-range and top-end focused V8. And these ground control coilovers are doing a really, really excellent job at making this feel like an OEM plus build, which was Mark's goal. It rides really well when you're just putting around or on the highway. But when you start pushing the car harder, you get a level of body control that the stock suspension doesn't quite match. Let's get it down. Second gear, first gear, 4,000 RPM. Red line looks to be around 6,600, or at least that's where the rev limiter is. The engine pulls so hard all the way to that number. And the steering inspires a surprising amount of confidence for a 2-ton car. Say what you will about steering boxes versus rack and pinion, but this steering is one of the highlights of the E39 M5. As is the engine, as is the gearbox. This is just a great handling car. And it doesn't rely on a bunch of overcomplicated technology to get there. Unlike a lot of the newer M cars, this still very much feels analog. What a joy to drive. We're on some Michelin PS4S tires with a staggered setup, 245 up front, 275 in the back on the stock 18-inch wheels. And it gives the car a sure-footedness because it does default to a little bit of turn and understeer, just a little bit, but the narrower tire up front also gives us a little bit more steering feel, which is really welcome. So it's geared a little bit long, but again, it suits the character of this car. You don't want to be constantly shifting because ultimately this is a daily driver-friendly luxury sedan. You can drive it calmly and not feel like you're overactive. The one downside to this car, I would say, is the clutch feel. I had the same issue with my 540i where the clutch engagement is rather abrupt and you don't really feel it through the pedal. And that did lead me to stalling that car many times. I know you can remove the clutch delay valve, which should help to improve the clutch feel just a bit, but I've never tried it. And I'm actually not sure if this car has it. It doesn't feel like it does, at least. Absolutely love this thing. One of my favorite sports sedans of all time, if not my favorite of all time. And what Mark's done here with these OEM Plus mods is really just elevated the performance and the handling and the feel of the car, the fun to drive nature, without sacrificing any of the daily drivability. And with almost 200,000 miles on the odometer, that's an impressive feat. And the interior is next to spotless. It really is a testament to how well these cars hold up if you take good care of them. Let's see if any F10 M5s look this clean in another 10 or 15 years. I'd be very surprised if they did. So with that being said, guys, another big shout out to Mark. What a pleasure driving this OEM Plus E39 M5. Let me know what you think about the E39. Is it truly the best sports sedan of all time? Or is there something even better that I just haven't thought of? Thank you guys for watching. see you in the next one.